former Czechoslovakia, 9, 10 years out of communist rule. So it's a bit difficult to work here. But what this country does allow you, outside of being really, really cheap to shoot here, is like incredible locations, gorgeous locations, interiors, and immaculate sets that sets, I mean, rooms that aren't sets that you couldn't even build, and a lot of these castles we filmed in, and libraries and museums have been around since 1100, and they have books in them that are 1,000 years old, and the floors and the wood and the marble and stuff like that. You couldn't recreate this stuff, so I had to say that was our main reason for coming out here.
We originally came to Prague because we thought we could actually use some of the real streets and shoot exteriors here in the streets of Prague, but it became clear early on that it's going to be very complicated with the cars and the traffic and the modernization. And so Martin has built in a little town about 20 miles from Prague called Orge, an amazing set of the whole Whitechapel area. We were able to build a set the size of which I don't think we could have done in Los Angeles or in London.
What I thought I was doing when I came to Prague 8 months ago was I thought I was coming here to find locations to shoot a film about Victorian London in and on, and spent the first few days being taken around towns on the outskirts of Prague and streets in Prague itself, and discovering that we would have had to have spent a hell of a lot of money to make it look anything like Victorian London. With great trepidation, I asked the question, should we build the whole of the East End of London, maybe on a backlot at Barrandov Studios, or find a field in a village somewhere? And the idea was taken up.
So Martin Childs got together with us and started designing, off the research we had done, the set that tied all the murder locations together. And being that we were here in Prague, it was a lot cheaper to build it here, so we can build a bigger set than we would in the UK or in America. So, and he just was, he's just really great production designer. He really got the details right, down to the moss and the dirt and the stuff in the streets.
The big undertaking for this was that we had to reproduce Whitechapel. We had to produce the East End of London. Because if you go there now, I mean, had we shot this in the UK, if you go there now, a lot of buildings still exist, but you can't turn around and shoot the reverse of them. So what we did here was create something where you could shoot 360 degrees of Victorian London. I guess it took about 3 or 4 weeks to do all of these streets. Yeah, I mean, and it took something like 12 weeks to build the entire set, from the day when it was just a flat field. And I came along here and saw the plan, the layout that I'd designed as a kind of three-dimensional join the dots thing. The entire layout was marked out in sort of 40-foot tree trunks, which they then nailed the facades to. What became apparent was that we needed to have this huge street down the middle of it all, which is Commercial Street. And the only way we could make a sort of 150 meter long, about a 500-foot long chunk of Commercial Street was to sort of give it a dog leg and a banana, so that you couldn't see off the end of it when you were at one end, and similarly when you were at the other end, you couldn't see off the other end of it. And then putting Christchurch in the middle of it all. All of the exterior stuff that we've shot here, we've had the special effects department have filled it with rain and mist, and with the poor interiors, I wanted to get the feeling that all of these buildings were badly maintained. So we've got sort of the weather getting onto the interiors too. So all of the walls are damp. And you just don't want to be inside these rooms where people are sleeping 6 to a bed, or sometimes 6 to a bench. That's the kind of thing I wanted to get across. There is a scene in which Abeline discovers that one of our unfortunates, Anne Crook, has been taken to Marylebone Workhouse, which is another another piece of Victorian Gothic architecture, and we actually found a location for that. It was a dream location. It's the sort of thing that's much better than I could have designed myself. And we found it in the city of Prague, and it's a still working maternity hospital, but it's sufficiently scary and Gothic and brown and dark and dismal to have played the part of this place where these poor unfortunates are taken. So we have a scene where these women are carried there in a cage, on a horse-drawn cage full of unfortunate women.
I think shooting in Prague, you can definitely get more for your dollar, which is why most productions come here. But we didn't come for that reason. We originally came for the streets and the old style, that they had in the streets, cobblestone and that. But in the end, we used it more for interior locations, which are more lush and rich. And even in England, you can find those because they still exist, that old feel. But out here, there's so many great interiors you can use, and then you can create a set like this and shoot the exteriors and combine them both. To hopefully get the real feeling out of it.
I discovered from working on a previous film in which Queen Victoria was a major character that a good way of doing the richest woman in the world also happens to be very, very small. It's put her in a very, very big room. So there was that contrast going on, and you could put her in a very big room full of gold things, and the graphic quality of that was very, very clear. And as a counterpoint to that, what you have in this film is an awful lot of poor women living all together in a very small room. So there's the contrast between those two things, and I think that's what I wanted to get across. Prague has got a lot of very interesting interiors and big interiors. So all of those things. The Strahov Monastery has two large libraries, one of which we used as an interior of Buckingham Palace, and one of which we used as a library that has no name. It could be the British Library, it could be anything, where Adeline goes to do some research.
Rest of my job, at least you could stay awake. Awake or asleep, dearest Sergeant Godley. I know that the luckiest day of my life was the day we became friends.
Okay, but wait. Oh. Okay. Let's just roll again and now I'll talk to me.
Alan Albert had encyclopedic knowledge of the Ripper murders. They knew a hell of a lot more than I did, and at the beginning of this film, 8 months ago, when I started working on it, they knew then a hell of a lot more than I know now. So they know a lot about murders. But what I could bring to it was how things look in England, and how the architecture works, and to sort of turn their vision of it into a real environment.
This is very accurate, particularly the 10 bells right here, the way this looks as in relation to the Christ Church. Christ Church is, I'd say, 95% accurate. We digitally put in another 2.5 lengths of this. What you see here, there's another 2.5 up. So that we do, but it's exactly the way it looked. Mitre Square is exactly the way it looked. Miller's Court is exactly the way it looked. The whole set, a lot of these shots are from actual photos. He got it right on. This guy, Mark Child, was like really, really, really fun to work with too, and really, really detail oriented. Very good.
We basically took all the murder sites and tried to get them as accurate as possible. 95% accuracy, along with the victims, like I said, and we tried to tie all these locations together into one central location where we can shoot the movie, shoot everywhere, and then not tie them in. Not have it so you can see that, hey, this set was connected to this set. You can use a whole set for different purposes.
All of the murder sites are well documented, and we've reproduced those to the nth degree.
And action!
Having taken something called the Ripper Tour around the East End of London, I discovered that a number of the murder sites still exist, and if they don't exist, if the walls around them don't exist, the Victorian walls around them as places that you could shoot on location, and at least their sort of footprint does. So the cobblestones are still there, telling you what the blood blood-stained cobblestones would have looked like. So we reproduced that pretty faithfully.
As far as recreating a murder site, I think they're as accurate as you can get, or have been documented in film, because usually in the films of the past, they have a girl getting like murdered outside a train station. It just never happened, So as far as the environment around the murder sites, actually the way the body was laid and what was by her head and what the wall looked like, or the whole street or alleyway or courtyard, because they were murdered in different locations. It's as accurate as it's ever been, actually. And some of the murders, you can actually obtain photos and see a lot of what was around the bodies, and how they were found. Some of them, they have less material, but we had to connect the dots or go find police records and read the descriptions, and paint in everything there, and use these referrologists actually also to help us, piece it together.
I mean, we spend so much time creating detail because to help the audience believe this is where these things could have happened. It's a pretty extraordinary story. This man went around murdering these women. So let's create somewhere with a touch of reality where you believe it could have happened. What's going to be great about this movie is the way the Hughes brothers are going to tell the story, I think, and the way Rafe Iglesias has told the story.